Jack gets classical with Pokemon Mystery DX.
Not all Pokemon spin-offs are created equal. Some, like Pokepark and Pinball, are fun distractions, while stuff like the Ranger series saw something of a cult following in its wake. In the same vein, the Mystery Dungeon series has been dormant since 2015, with fans praying for a sequel, even one a tiny bit better than Gates to Infinity. Nintendo heard these calls, and in an effort to maintain the blue balls of Diamond and Pearl remake hopefuls, they've released a remaster of the Red and Blue dungeons in Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team Deluxe. While it does a good job of inspiring nostalgia of the Red and Blue originals, is that really what we want in 2020? In Rescue Team Deluxe, you have been transformed from a human to a Pokemon, and as the world is falling apart around you, a little bit relatable, a partner Pokemon convinces you to join forces as a rescue team, providing services and rescuing Pokemon in distress. Instead of encountering Pokemon in tall grass as normal, battle and exploration go hand in hand within the procedurally generated dungeons. Battle is pretty straightforward though, and unless you rush through story missions, you're unlikely to face much challenge in the dungeons themselves. However, unlike in the originals, the game has been rebalanced, so the boss fights aren't completely at odds with exploration, at least to some extent. These changes make it a much more pleasant experience at length, where the originals could on occasion be quite frustrating. The problem you can run into after a while is a lack of variety. The same 4 to 5 goals are used in most quests, with only items, locations, and Pokemon changing each time. For the first half of the game, there is ample opportunity to grind and recruit Pokemon, should you be particularly keen to. However, if that's not your thing, you'll find yourself mostly led by the story, which is still a nice departure from the mainline Pokemon series. I've really enjoyed the game's aesthetics, though through a few friends I found them to be somewhat divisive. It's presented in a storybook-like art style, inspired by the title screen backgrounds of the originals. While the game can sometimes seem a little lacking in detail, some smaller features like the white halo around characters and the pencil sketch-like shadows revealed as Pokemon move around the screen delight. The soundtrack has also been updated, with just the right balance of intensity and subtlety, something that previous remasters like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire stumbled with at times. While it's not particularly offensive to dungeon fans, thankfully, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team Deluxe isn't going to blow you away. Dungeon games never really blew anyone away. But if you've just recently gotten through a Let's Go or Sword and Shield and you're wanting more, it's a fun romp for mainline series regulars.
Alright, so Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, whatever the hell it's called.
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team Deluxe was originally 2 separate games.
Yes.
That was cross-gen. It was one on the Game Boy Advance and one on the DS.
DS, correct.
Weird.
There was not many of those games out there nowadays that did the cross-platform.
No. And I mean, yeah, pour one out for the DS, one of the great consoles.
Phenomenal.
Of all time. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely fantastic.
I even love the old design. The old, it's got to survive a fall out of a man's business shirt pocket. The average Japanese man is 168 centimeters tall.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be able to survive a fall from that height to the ground on a crowded platform. That was literally what they.
I have one. It has not. I don't. It has fallen
too
apart.
Tall, Gaijin, too tall.
Yeah, true. I'm a bit taller.
I think out of all of the iterations of the DS, I think that was the best throwback to Game & Watch as well.
The
clamshell design.
And PictoChat, I mean, I love this.
I love the DS Lite though.
Yeah.
DS Lite was phenomenal, and it really, as much as it was on both platforms, I think it was more something to be congratulated that the teams made it feel native on both systems. Like it kind of felt a little, because it was on the cusp, we hadn't gotten so far into DS territory that it was like GBA was so separated. Like when you look at 3D games on the Game Boy Advance, God, they look like garbage.
Yeah, but 2D games on that look amazing.
They look solid.
Like treasure games, like the Game Boy Advance was a solid console.
It was phenomenal.
But it was just when it kind of came out, it was that was when it was really one of those real generational jumps, because we went from these, really tiny pixelated screens to not so tiny pixelated screens, but stuff like PictoChat, social gaming, that really started to become a thing with the DS. And I guess it's interesting that that's the game that Nintendo have decided that they're going to remake. Like, because has it got the 2 versions on the Switch, or how do they do it?
It's just one. So they've kind of consolidated. I honestly could not tell you some of the bigger differences between the originals. Right. Like some of the functionality they actually had unique to the DS version, where you could use wireless communication, all the rest of it. So you could, instead of having like rescuing your mate from them dying or trading like Wonder Trade or whatever the hell it was called on the DS, some of those features have been put online now. So you can, when you die in a dungeon, I'm pretty sure you can kind of like ping Nintendo subs and be like, hey, rescue me. Right now, there are plenty of people playing it, so you'll be able to get rescued. And if, a year or two's time, maybe not. But yeah, there's only one game. It is Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team Deluxe,
Yes.
not Red and Blue. It's just the one
Right,
game.
okay.
It's not really the first time that they've done this either, or at least for the Mystery Dungeon
Yeah.
games, because you also had the Explorers of Sky, which
Sky
was the next game, which
and Time.
So it was like Shadows and Time,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it was essentially like the Emerald version of that. So
Yeah,
it was the quintessential game, and I highly recommend you pick that
Phenomenal.
up. Because it is a phenomenal game. It's actually a very mature Pokemon story as well. Like, a lot of people sit there and go like, oh, Pokemon Black and White was so emotional. It's like, you never played Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, did you? Gotcha.
And
Yes.
plus, I mean, if you're a furry, Mystery Dungeon's obviously the pick because you play as Pokemon. So, like,
How would you know that?
I'm just going off what I've been told. What I've been
Okay.
told. Yeah, the people on this crew, come on, man. Like, let's be real. Like,
Yeah, Brandon is over there and he's looking at me funny.
Yeah.
Yes, but I would highly recommend if Mystery Dungeon does well as far as sales go, I really hope, like, pray to God, hashtag make this happen, that Explorers of Sky is next.
Look, they obviously were very keen to maintain the blue balls of those hoping to get a Diamond and Pearl re-release. I think that Explorers of Sky is the next step in that process.
It's just logical.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind either.
I would say the big thing for me is that Nintendo at the moment, after Animal Crossing, have no big games coming out.
It's
They got
so weird.
nothing.
It's barren.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a bunch more remakes and then they have, Metroid or Zelda or whatever at the end of the year and then go from there. So we shall see.